For some of us, food is a necessity that's taken for granted, though food security is a complex and increasingly difficult issue. The enormous challenge is to ensure that there is enough food for all, that it's equally distributed, and that our planet succeeds in responding to our growing needs.
The population of the world is continuing to grow, and so by 2050 the projection is that there will be 9 billion people on the planet to feed, compared to 7 billion now. So the question that's worrying people is, how are you going to provide sufficient food to feed 9 billion people? That can be done, but how are you going to do it without degrading ecosystems and biodiversity in many parts of the world?
Projections show that over the next 50 years, the demand for food crops will rise by 75 to 80%, and water by 30 to 50%. The depletion of our land and oceans will make feeding us all a challenge.
So part of our message that we need to send out from IUCN and from our Congress and so on is that conservation has an important contribution, an important role to play in strengthening and building food security, especially for the poorest and most vulnerable people. And that's because there is an important role of ecosystems in those 4 dimensions of food security: access, availability, utilization and stability.
With the rise in demand for food and energy, cropland is being recalled and transformed for the production of crops to feed livestock and produce biofuels.
So one of the issues that when you start to work with this idea of the water, food, energy nexus, you start to realize that energy, for example, is in competition with food for resources and for land. And you see that particularly with the idea of using biofuels as a replacement for fossil fuels. Well, that makes a competition for land for food production, for water for food production.
Clean water, carbon regulation, nutrient cycles and soil maintenance are essential for healthy agriculture.
Climate change imposes more variations in rainfall, more droughts and more floods. So we work with local communities in order to identify the technologies that they use in the event of catastrophes or due to lack of rainfall.
If we're going to achieve sustainable development in a way that can address climate change, we need packages of measures that deal with food, energy and water security altogether. So that means paying attention to the impacts of water management on food security and vice versa. The impacts of energy policy on food security, on the availability and access to food, and the availability and access to water.
Deforestation and excessive use of water all have disastrous effects on biodiversity, ecosystems and livelihoods.
The thing that can be often forgotten, even in those kinds of discussions, is how all of that also connects to ecosystems, and how ecosystems also underpin the security of energy in an economy, the security of water in an economy, the security of food for people.
Billions of dollars are injected into adapting farming methods to protect the rural environment and wildlife. This is costly, so poorer countries are looking to small-scale, diversified farming.
IUCN is an organization that works with conservation and ecosystems, but to work on food security and contribute to the kinds of solutions that we described, that we have to work with the communities that are addressing agricultural productivity.
Local farmers use a variety of techniques to meet their production needs, even when the soil is not ideal for agriculture.
Food is central to human well-being and livelihoods. IUCN has an essential role in raising awareness, sharing its knowledge to protect and manage ecosystems. Our programs, using scientific, traditional and local knowledge, are working with governments, communities, farmers and fishermen to sustainably manage their resources.
In that particular example of Nigeria, that resulted in the various governments, state governments and the federal government saying, you know, the idea of restoring this river basin so that it better meets people's needs for food security, so that it better sustains the ecosystems, important wetland systems in the middle of this basin, so that it better has a better chance of ensuring that flows of water into Lake Chad are restored, that's really worth doing. And the plan for doing that the stakeholders have come together to create, that's really convincing. So they are putting investing money, government money, into restoring the basin, because they recognize that a healthier basin with healthier ecosystems is better for people and better for the economy.
There are a set of solutions which depend on natural factors, based on natural resources, soil, water, and plants, can help guarantee food security.
Raising awareness is a global responsibility. Stronger policies, effective collaboration, education and research have to be at the centre of our concerns.
The challenge, though, going forward is to make sure that ecosystems are healthy alongside food secure people. And that should really be a message of hope, because there are solutions that ecosystems contribute to that food security puzzle. And as IUCN, we are working on demonstrating how that works in the field and getting it into the meeting rooms in the capitals and in the United Nations, to make sure that there are really comprehensive packages of productivity, ecosystems and good policy that will mean that we can solve the food security challenge that the world faces.
Nature Plus is food for all.